We're going to get cracking in a moment, but before we do, this is an important announcement. The information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into account your personal situation. We don't guarantee the quality of the wine or the banter contained in this content. You should consider whether the information is appropriate for your needs and your daily intake. And where appropriate, seek professional advice from a financial advisor, accountant, bottle shop assistant, or relevant qualified professional. Matters referred to in this podcast are of general nature only, and for those of drinking age, and should not be relied upon in place of appropriate personal advice or the odd glass of wine on a Friday.
To make sure you get the most out of wealth, wine and wisdom, folks, please follow the house rules. Don't be a wallflower, get involved in the chat. We love to have some questions, feedback, and a little bit of commentary along the way. You give us energy, we'll have a good time. Make sure you pour yourself a glass of something wet to wet the whistle. Make sure you get the banter flowing as well. Doesn't matter what you're drinking, whether it's wine, our favourite, beer, coffee, maybe it's a cup of tea, water, or even juice. Keep the good energy flowing, folks. There's some house rules. If you don't put your name down, we don't know who you are, you're not coming in. Don't spam or advertise. This is our little game of cricket. This is all about debriefing the week, folks. What's going on out there in the world, and hopefully get you some sanity, maybe a bit of a chuckle at the end of the week, so we can all be on the same page and keep moving forward. Make sure you respect your fellow patrons, because we don't let any old muck in this place. And most of all, have some fun and enjoy this episode of Wealth, Wine and Wisdom. Marty, do it. Hey! Well, there you go, Fenton. Welcome to another Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, my friend, and here with a live crowd. Great to have all of you guys here. Well, everyone at home can see us online. Let us know in the chat. Jeff, good to see you on today, mate. Let us know in the chat if you can hear us well and you can see us well. Big hello, evening from Alison. Yeah, good to see you here. Welcome. This could be wonderful or it could be a disaster. Who knows? It's the first time we've ever done.
That's pretty much the same for every Friday, just for context.
It could be. This is the first time we've done a live Wealth, Wine and Wisdom with some real people in the audience, and we'll see how we roll here tonight. We've got people in from Bundaberg, Cherie, the other half of the dynamic duo.
Yes.
A quick hello from Cherie. And we've got Jeff, loud and clear. A bit fuzzy, though, at the back there, fellas. So maybe just check the camera or the output. But we'll on here as we roll along. Hopefully you can roll with us, folks. And away we go. But you guys know the drill. Welcome along. I can see many of you online here today, which is awesome. Friday afternoon. It feels like I've lost track of time. You guys rolling? I've lost track of time, Fenton.
Well, me too. I'm back on your time at the moment, so it's 5 o'clock somewhere. I'm sure of that. But we're here as a part of the Exit Plan special event. We're coming to you live from the W in great Brisbane, Vegas. I don't know why I said great. I don't believe it really, but no, I love Brisbane, Vegas. It's amazing. So we've spent the day with some amazing people. Last night we were down Newstead at an amazing apartment complex up there. A great little cocktail party, which was bang on. And now drinking again by the looks of it with you, mate. So there's a bit of a theme. I think you're a bad influence.
What is it? Is it a drinking theme? Well, I'm a bit of a teetotaler when it comes to drinking, but on Fridays, Andy and I have been doing this for now 3 years.
Yes.
Debriefing the week. You know, many of you guys experienced this. We all did anyway. Living in the world as it was when COVID came along, many of us in business and in investing found that there was so many changes when it came to the world of money, life, that we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know whether a Martha, up or down, round and in or out. And we had a get together and we were talking about changes, and we wanted to communicate that to our community, which is property investors and business owners. And along the way, we decided instead of repeating it one by one, we'd do it as a live stream out to people, and they could watch it live, ask some questions, download it later, whatever it might be. And it's really taken off. And for us, it's been something not only to help others, but help ourselves. We kept some sanity along the way. My world of 20-year plus in real estate, Andy's 20-year plus in the world of banking and the stock market. And we tried to sort of understand what was going on. So, welcome along the live audience and welcome along the online team and crew. We've got a few regulars, which is great, and it's kind of cool to do this funkily as we do on a Friday. Everyone, Andy, we've spiced up our branding for the launch of this year, but what do we usually do on Wealth, Wine and Wisdom?
It's a lot more basic, really, than today. But as you come in, introduce yourself, put it in the chat. If you're new, say I'm new. And if you are, welcome along. Welcome to everybody that's in the room today. And, mate, it's been a cracker week. I mean, we've obviously launched the exit plan. That's probably going to be hitting newspapers Australia-wide, I would say. If the journalists really have anything positive to say, that would be on the front page of every newspaper. So I think it's not what's in the news anymore. It's Decant the Week. So typically we have three things that we follow now. We have Decant the Week, which is all a little bit of a metaphor about what's happening in the news recently. What should you know about? We've got the number one menace, which is typically at the end. That's our favourite, which is generally one of three different types of people: economists, politicians, and related parties. And then we've got the perfect pairing. And I've got a few perfect pairings this week. Normally I focus on the number one menace, although I do have a bit of a menace in here. And maybe we would kick it off.
Do you want to cut straight to the menace? Well, what are we doing? We're doing the Decant the Week?
Well, let's mix it up. Let's do the number one menace first.
Happy days.
Can we go for the number one menace?
Number one menace. Roll the. You won't hear this, actually. You missed it. Anyway, there you go. Number one menace. What do we got on the menu for the number one menace, Andy? Because I've got two.
Well, bring up my slides, mate. I know that you snapped it. I certainly snapped it when it came past, and love these guys together. Clearly, somebody who's already drunk. Thank you. We appreciate it. But no, we really do appreciate it. I'm just being cheeky. So the big four. So jump onto mine, please, Marty. Or
no,
Deb.
That's my other one.
The beauty of a live show.
There we go.
The big four. I don't know why we call it the big four anymore, because it's really the big five. Macquarie is a chameleon of a company. It's done incredibly well over the years. It's now known as the big five, not the big four. Whenever they report on banking results, they manage to go under the radar. I reckon there's a smart marketing strategy there somewhere. I reckon every time they get up, there's Macquarie, they always go, the big four, and it's just like them there. But, ladies and gentlemen, record profits again.
Give them a hand.
And they've been crying poor for a long period of time, and we've talked about this a lot in regards to refinancing over the years. When interest rates were going down, Jason and I were getting up you saying, make sure that you refinance because they don't pass on the benefits as that goes through. But ultimately, to quote Peter, it's a bit of a dual number one menace, because ultimately we want our banking system to be healthy, right? Because if we don't have a healthy banking system, then we're all pretty much
parked.
Yeah, greasified, I'd probably call it. And, so a healthy economy needs healthy banks. So it goes back to what we've been saying for quite some time. And I bring them up as a number one menace, but ultimately I think we should learn the lesson now. And there's even a saying for it. You don't invest with the banks. You invest what?
In the banks.
You invest in the banks, right? You buy the bank shares because they've been getting record profits pretty much every second year for the last 20 odd years. I mean, that's a pretty bloody good record.
Not bad at all.
They're backed by legislation. They're backed by the Banking Act of 1995. They're backed by the federal government. What else could you want from an investment strategy than somebody's gone from record profits to record profits? So, mate, I labelled them as the number one menace because everyone likes to put the badge on the people who are doing well.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if you join the party, there's one way that you can do it. Instead of going into the term deposits, take a more risky strategy. This isn't investment advice, but it's one way that you can actually get along for the journey.
And Commonwealth Bank, they bumped up their dividend, didn't they?
100%.
Yeah, 20% improvement on their dividend, and everyone's like, and I'm a bit annoyed with them, putting up my interest rate. But hey, if you had the shares on the flip side, you're getting the outcome as well. So hedge your bets. If don't rage against the machine that you can't change. The rules are there. Play with it, roll with it, get a piece of that action. I think that's great.
But it dovetails into some other stuff that's been in the news, and this is I know this is close to your industry, Jace, but Westpac's warned almost half of its $471 billion in home loans were written using interest rate buffers that are set to be exceeded. The looming breach of serviceability buffers, big test for broker and banking sector. Mate, what's your test? Because ultimately there's the fixed rate loans that are going to start to go on to variable. I read an article also that was saying that the CBA actually got sold off a lot last night or the night before because investors said, well, the party's over.
Party's over. How's that? Record profits and everyone's like, oh, we're out.
Yeah, we're gone. Good time, Charlie's. It's
good time, Charlie's.
Yeah, because you can't possibly do any better than that, can you? That's it. The banks are now, it's happened every year for the last 4 or 5, probably last 10 years, every second year, people are going, that's it. The banks are no longer going to be a powerhouse in Australia.
Yeah.
But they keep on finding a way, don't they?
They do.
So what happens, Jace,
especially when the Big Four and the legislation says, hey, the only 4 the government cares about surviving if we have a problem or what? ANZ, Westpac, NAB, CommBank. And that's legislated into our... And Macquarie. Oh, they've added it. Oh, the Big Four and a bit.
The Big Five. The Big Five.
The Big Five.
But here's the thing, when they waiver, right, from interest only into the new rates, then they're ticking over into a higher interest rate environment for the banks.
Well, listen, and, again, what do you listen to, right? When you go out there and you listen to the media and they're going, this person's going, hey, they're going to go through the buffer rates or something like that. What a disaster coming for Australia and mortgages and finance. Well, no, there's not. I mean, I don't know if anyone paid any attention to this. There's a 4-letter word and it's not a swear word, but it should be. In 2017 and 18, this institute did an investigation into banking. Anyone know what that is? Not ASIC, starts with A, yell out. APRA, right? APRA. So APRA got involved and they said, hey, listen, we think you, the lenders, are playing a game that's a bit edgy, a bit dodgy. And the buffer rates facility used to be 1.5 on top of, right? That's not good enough. And they said, listen, we want it to be 2. Anyone know from 2020 onwards, what the buffer rate was for all of that lending? Anyone top of? So the interest rate, you can't answer because you're a broker. 2.5, right? And then it went up to 3 in some instances, depending on lender that you work on. And I should have brought my debt servicing calculator. Some of it right now is 3.75. So not only the legislative one from APRA, but the banks are putting more on. Now, I think that's a big smoke screen. I think that's just bullshit. It's just rubbish again.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, watch out.
Shit, that was the other menace, wasn't it? Yeah. Politicians, economists, and the media. Yeah, journalists.
Right. Journalists. They find one thing and they go, we can spin this a bit. And turn it into drama and drasticness. Because at the end of the day, you know what? Unfortunately, the media only gets by now because people, they click on their articles. Clickbait
Journalism.
Yeah. I mean,
when was the last time you clicked on a picture of puppies?
Is this a trick question?
But it's true. We don't do that neurologically.
Yeah.
We're more we're designed to take action against things that fear us.
Yeah.
And so now we're in that world, and as we're going to go into tomorrow, and we're going to share a little bit of stuff tonight, which is multi-purpose. It's a bit of educational content for everyone in the room for tomorrow.
What's the word? What's the word that they used that they shouldn't have because it's actually not even applicable? What's the word that feels illegal? What's the word they're using?
Allegedly.
Breaching. They're breaching it. You breached the rules. You breached the thing. Like, I breached it. I breached it.
What did I breach?
What did I breach?
What are we talking about?
Like it's specifically targeted by media to do these sorts of things, right? To us as investors, everyone listening online, like that's going to put you in a space, in a place where you don't make good decisions. You're not breaching anything. Nothing happened, right? And they're all like, oh, quick, whatever. And we're making the stuff. I call bullshit, Fenton, on that one.
I call BS.
Yeah, BS. The lenders, I mean, this is not their first rodeo, right? They didn't come down in the last storm. They already know. They've seen this many times before. They've got buffer on buffer on buffer on buffer. What happens if you default on your mortgage? What do we all pay? We all pay it, whether we pay extra or not. What's an insurance that we pay when we get a loan? Mortgage insurance. Who does it protect? Doesn't protect you. Right? Just so we're really clear, you pay it.
It's well worded though, isn't it? It's kind of like, oh, I'm insured.
Yeah, I'm insured. What am I insured for? Well, nothing.
Hang on, nothing. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right? So, and again, I think it's bullshit, but they're insured. They're underwritten. If you choke on your loan, they're insured for that. They don't care. It's not going to happen, right? Like, so again, they didn't come down in the last shower. This is malarkey. This is carry on. That language, I call bullshit on it.
Yeah, total bullshit.
Yeah.
And most of you have been watching for a little while. You know that we've got this concept about politicians potentially going, have a look over here, while they're beating you up here. So talking about somebody who's getting the shit kicked out of them again, our Reserve Bank chairman, he's just getting an absolute beating by the MPs again. It's unbelievable. Right? And look, does it, in some ways you kind of go, well, look, you could have maybe deserved some of it. Maybe deserved some of it. But
hang on.
let's.
I'm not raising rates till 2024. He deserves
it. Yeah, and then he did.
But, and for those of you at home, we've just got what do you call them? Hooligan in the
no,
heckler. We got a heckler out here, and he's saying, made wildish predictions around rates not going back up. Yeah. But at the same token, the people who are smashing him are the people who are putting helicopter money around and spending money like there was no tomorrow, and they just kept on doing it. Now, I'm saying there might be a couple of people involved in this, but I'm not sure that this man here deserves all of the blame. But it's amazing how the instigators of it can point the finger and go, hang on, you totally fucked the economy. It was you and your cronies just single-handedly destroyed the economy. What about all the helicopter money? No. You're responsible for inflation and interest rates and everything that we do. And he's getting an absolute pounding at the moment. But he's supporting the banks, though. He's backing the banks.
Well, I mean, arguably, if you like a good conspiracy theory, who's healthy at the moment?
Pretty sure he's got some bank shares disclosed in there somewhere.
I reckon he might have bought those for sure along the way. And again, there's a bunch involved here. I mean, you and I talked about this, the government giving away money like drunken sailors. Never in my history had in the real estate game. And if you go back in early 2020, check out one of my lives in the morning. I do a wealth coffee chat in the morning. I pulled over on the side of the road and I said, I got to get this out there. Like team, folks, like gang, listen up. The government's giving you a free house. Right. And bullshit. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, follow me here. Right. So if you qualified for first home buyers, right, nearly every state you ended up with between $60,000 and $80,000. And I'll say that again, $60,000 and $80,000 worth of free cash, a free home. Matter of fact, the right people who followed some of our strategies ended up with putting cash in their pocket after buying a property, which obviously did what to the property market?
It couldn't have caused inflation, couldn't it? Because it's low who did that. That was the reserve caused the inflation.
Let's give away free money to everybody and let's try and build the record number of freestanding houses we've ever built in one period of time ever. And that didn't blow up the supply chain or exacerbate the issues in COVID, did it?
No. That's why the inflation rate, I'm pretty sure housing in there is like 1%. Or is it 10%? I think it's 10%. I think it might be 10%.
So anyway, Lowy gets the heat, but, the government is chucking him under the bus as well.
Unbelievable.
Right?
They literally just sit there and they kick him, and the Australian public are going, "You bastard." He must be the most hated man in the neighbourhood. Fair dinkum. But, mate, that pretty much does it for me for what's in the news. I was going to try and find some of those inflation statistics, which I've got them here somewhere. But, mate, what have you got?
I got a little bit. I'll if Marty runs up the front here, Marty on my slides. Well, I'll dovetail on the number one Menace, but this was a little bit of a double whammy. There he is, Chambers. Or Chambers putting the Commonwealth Bank on. You're on notice. Well, he was part of the crew who got them into trouble or got them into this first place. Grandstanding. Going, hey, look at me, whatever it is. Now, listen. I believe we should vote for better politicians. That's what I think. I still believe in, we've got an amazing country with actually a good system. Just necessarily, I think Aussies sometimes are a little bit laid back on who we choose and how involved we get. But, that's probably the ebb and flow of who we are. But, at the end of the day, not only the banks are getting a bit of heat, but, the pollies are getting in there and
Look at that. He's used to pointing that finger. Look how well he does it. That is unbelievable.
I'm putting you on notice for the thing that I was involved in, but if I point at you first, then I won't get that, right?
Oh, it reminds me of Father O'Flannery. Fenton.
So, listen, at the end of the day, the politicians were 100% in the camp doing that sort of stuff. Now, I don't know, it's a tough one, right? Most politicians have never run a business. They've never done, anything economically that's beneficial right, often. So it's just like, who's going to step up to the plate, right? So, at the end of the day, I think that's something to consider. But, certainly right now, the banks are quite happy and, the politicians help them get there, and in the news for me, a few things going on. I'm going to sort of dine out on this one here. Already we talked about the rate. Now that's already been talked about being reduced. So, and I've said this plenty of times, it's actually quite systematic what goes on. If you can sort of take the emotional process out of it, we dine out on it a bit. We have a glass of wine and get a bit lewd and rude. But if you drill into where it is and what's going on, it's quite logical from this point onwards. The banks need to make money. It's in the best interest of the country. And now what will happen is there'll be leverage on APRA to go, listen, loosen it up a bit. There's already conversations happening. Don't have a 9% hurdle rate for people to borrow money on top of what we're doing. Adjust it and reduce it. So that's coming. And again, you and I love doing this. Going on record, this is live. I'm calling it. It'll be within 6 months. It'll go down. They'll drop it at least 1 to 1.5%, the hurdle rate over and above the interest rate. And also, like in this space, those low 1%, 2% loans will never happen ever again. Like it's done. Like I said, I think I said this morning. Once in a generation, maybe once never, once only ever. Did we get an opportunity to participate in that? So it was good. And do you know what? The cost of money is around about what it should be for everything to be pretty healthy and okay, right? That's where we're at with that sort of stuff. So that's what's in the news in that sort of, here's what's going on. And this is the knock-on effect in my world in real estate, and the media sort of says, oh, you know what? The interest rates went up. Oh, everyone's going to be in trouble and it's going to be a disaster and they're all going to sell. No, that's not the case in any way, shape or form. Just now, not only have we had the lowest amount of properties on the market in Australia's history for sale, secondhand properties, for over 12 months, the interest rates going up again have exacerbated that. So people are withdrawing their properties for sale. So the supply is actually getting worse for people who want to buy. It's not like making people sell because, by and large, I've done this before. Aussies right now after COVID are richer than they've ever been. And we, 6 months ago, were the wealthiest nation per capita in the world. The largest amount of savings per capita in the world per person, right? So we're kind of like the richest nation on the planet per person. And even though we've got a small population, we punch well above our weight, right? And, high interest rates, what's it doing? It's just saying, I'm not going to sell, or it's removing supply from the market. What's that doing? Like just follow the logic. Less supply on the market, what's happening? Prices will go up. What's actually happening in advance of the prices going up? What's accelerating at an insane rate right now? I've been saying this for well over 2 years. What's going up, accelerating like there's no tomorrow? The rents. All right. We just had one of our team down in Melbourne. We manage over 500 properties in Melbourne. The rent went from $310, and in one increase went from $310 to $620, like that. And that is coming. How long have we had the interest rate rises? Like how many months? How many? 9, right? What in Melbourne specifically, when can you, from a term point of view, when can you put your rent up? Every month? 12 months. It hasn't even started yet, folks. It hasn't even started, right? Queensland, it's every 6 months, different places. We've got 2 to 3 more years going to happen. For 10 years, rents were flat because interest rates were dead low. Right?
I didn't tell you that midweek, I had a client actually ring up and say, I'm not going to put up my rents. And I said, why? So the agent said you might end a tenant. I said, I think somebody just doesn't want to redo the fucking contract.
I think you'll be all right?
I'm like, what's the vacancy rate?
Yeah, I mean, folks, go and check it out. Vacancy rate. The average vacancy rate in Australia nationally is just over 1%. What does that mean? It means that it's taking less than 7 days, when it's normally 3 weeks, it's taking less than 7 days to fill a property. Real estate agents now are saying, don't worry about the outgoing cleaning because we've got people knocking the doors down, get them in.
Yeah, they'll clean it themselves.
It's insane. We've had our team staying there till midnight to clean it because the tenant's moving in tomorrow. They vacated today and they got the new in tomorrow. There's zero changeover. This is not going to be solved. We're in the midst of a disaster. Nobody is admitting just yet.
They're starting to scratch the surface. I mean, you've been talking about it now for 3 years. Ever since we started.
It actually started in 2018 when APRA and the government decided they would eliminate a few things, right? And then COVID just like a good old 1-2, right? Like just knocked it for 6. But if we go back up here, Marty, if you can pull that back up, I don't know if you can see these in the last monthly change or the yearly change from last year to this year, Melbourne, 27% listings from already a record low amount of existing listings for sale in Melbourne. Like it's not going. There's no, and just what just happened? The government said, yeah, we need people in the country, right? I was chatting with Cav last night, right? One of the people who need people to lay some concrete and some blocks. He said, mate, there's no one around. So like Cav needs about 10,000 bricklayers in the country, right? Like what we have is a disaster in that space. Like the government is just totally unprepared to solve in any way, shape or form. It's not going to be even close to being solved for 5 to 10 years. And tomorrow I'm going to talk about what's going to drive the next 10 years. Maybe you could drop those blinds, D, because they're starting to get a bit glary. About the greatest transfer in Australian history of wealth over the next 10 years, right? 4 million.
How many?
4 million. 4 million people are going to retire and transfer their wealth.
Retire and die.
Retire, well, they maybe even die.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to talk.
Sorry, that was a reference point to earlier on today.
So you know what, and I've never understood Hobart, but I guess find all logic to me. But it's like, why? Why does Hobart still keep going up? Well, maybe people in Melbourne go, it's cheap. I'll live in Hobart. I don't know. But anyway, 34% increase because, the average income in Tasmania is low. Okay, so follow income. And tomorrow I'm going to talk about this. Population, infrastructure, employment, the big three. All right. So for me, right now in the news, it's that. And last but not least, let's go and have a look at this. There's just one more. I told you so. This ages ago. The Perth rental market.
You love that, don't you?
No, so
Yeah.
told you
We
so.
can't say it at home, but we can say it here.
Yeah, no. The lowest rental listings in 40 years. And here's the drill. I said this 12 months ago. Perth's going to be one of the ones that's going to come back online, right? Second highest income in Australia. Lowest average in Australia, lower than Adelaide and even Hobart. Right? Go figure.
Easy go.
Go figure. I'm not going to go check it out. Lowest median rent for a 4-bedroom house. Second highest income, lowest. All right. Does it take Einstein to work out there's actually room to move? Right? It doesn't. And then when you lock in, 40 years, lowest vacancy rate in 40 years in Perth. I reckon Perth's got some legs. I reckon Melbourne's got some legs. And on the back of 10-year vision for Brisbane, I reckon Brisbane's got some legs. So that's what's in the news for me, Fenton, when it comes to the world of real estate.
Well, mate, everyone talks about Perth from the perspective of, well, hang on, China's offline now. They're not building anymore. Or yada, yada, yada. What a lot of people don't talk about, or maybe they don't talk to the people who are on the ground over there. We've got a number of clients that are in the trenches over there. Never been busier. No, I can't quote them. I can't quote never been busier. But allegedly, they're going so hard at it over there that they're struggling to keep their compliance standards where they need to be in order to fulfill the work. Now, they're not digging the same stuff out. Gold through the roof. They're never coring so much as what they are now. Nickel and rare earths, the US government are out here consolidating the future of their technology so we can dig it up and ship it out. We always say it in this forum is that history doesn't repeat itself, but it's an incredible mimic, right? And WA, it's a one-trick pony, dig it up and ship it out, but it's bloody worked, and it's looking like it's going to continue to work for a little while into the future. Well, and never been busier. Like when I chat to these guys over there, they're like, nah. It's like recession potential? Nah. Things are getting hard. The only thing that's hard, mate, is getting enough people to get the goddamn job done, because if we had 100 more people, literally this is a business that we work with, they've already got 100 employees. If they had 100 more, they would still be short-staffed.
All right. The number one accessible place on the planet for the most in-demand materials at this moment in time. Do anyone know what they are? Lithium, iron, copper, anything to do with battery technology.
Nickel.
Right. Yeah. Cobalt, right. Western Australia, nearly 95% of the accessible deposits capable of being extracted, Western Australia's got them, but they can't get them out of the ground. They can't, now, not necessarily talking about the other impacts of that stuff, but jobs. People, WA shut down their borders for the whole of COVID. You couldn't go in and out, right? Queensland said, no problem, we'll take all the Victorians. Queensland went, whoop, like this, right?
I lost a lot of good friends.
Right, it happened. But there you go. And, Jeff saying, same going in coal. Like it's going mental now. Like, this is the thing. The world's coming back online.
We should talk about it next week. I don't know the data right now, but the shutting down of coal plants and the reignition of coal plants, just to be able to service the demand. Like these political decisions that get made so knee-jerk, and it's like in popular opinion, and then all of a sudden they have to refire them up, which costs us, well, no wonder they need to raise taxes, really.
Gazillions. Right. Well,
So-
we've done number one Menace. We've done a bit of what's in the news or decant the week. What are you getting on to? Press that button, Marty. Now, we can continue to talk on here. Like problem solution, right?
Problem solution. So what do we pair up with times like this where, and we're going to talk about a lot tomorrow. Investing can be turbulent, right? And you're wondering whether you've made the right decisions. And mate, what I did is I thought, well, why don't we go in and have a look at what time frame do you think that just about any investment other than Bitcoin, whack my slides up there, Marty. What time frame do you think that you need to be invested in something to basically guarantee yourself a positive return? No matter, you literally entered in just before the global financial crisis, absolute high. What sort of time frame do you think you need to be in to guarantee yourself an annualized positive return?
Magic number.
And now these guys know. What about out there? What do you reckon it is, gang? Whack it in the chat. How many years? You might have heard it. I'm quite sure whether it came through the mic, but I'd love to see it. How many years until you're guaranteed, basically across almost any asset, we'll call it asset class, all right? Basically guaranteed an investment return year on year that's going to be positive. How many years? Whack it in the chat. Come on, don't be scared.
Now remember, there's a 10 to 15 second delay on the
I
chat.
want it now. I want it now.
So put it in the chat, folks, if you know. How long does it take for your investment to always become positive when it comes to the marketplace in the stock market, the share exchange, whatever?
I did some analysis, stock market, across private equity, and of course, these are funds and asset classes, right? So these are larger industries. Or indexes and things of that nature. So not a specific investment. That's not what I'm talking about. We got 20 years. Alison, pessimistic, but yep, you're a professional investor. But not too far wrong. So I'll slowly work my way up to it, right?
Jeff reckons 10. There's between 10 and 20.
So
right.
I've used the S&P, so the American stock market. For comparison. And here, just so you know, we've got treasury bills that are on the left-hand side there. We've got the US bond index. And people might go, well, how do bonds actually end up negative in a 1 year period of time? Well, you can actually lose money in bonds, right? And one of the reasons why people who follow 60-40 might have lost money over the last couple of years is because, last year is because interest rates have gone up, so bond prices go down. Now, this is really crucial. If you're sitting on the edge going, I'll get out of my bloody 60-40 fund because interest rates have gone up, well, you might need to have a little bit of a think. But over the right-hand side here, it's the best and worst, right? In a 1 year period of time, and this is 40% here, 40% over here. So the worst year you're going to be looking at if you jumped into the S&P is a negative 40% return for the year. But if you're on the opposite side of it, you've almost doubled your cash. It's unbelievable. Doubled it. Put it on red. You're pretty much up almost 100%. You're just short of 100% in 1 year.
So what's the volatility from bottom to top on that?
Well, that's 150%.
There you go.
From top to bottom in a single year return.
So right? 1 year, you talk about good time Charlies, right?
Yeah. Oh, mate. Yeah. Well, we've got a different word for these ones.
Yeah.
These ones we call temporary citizens. So then when we jump ahead to the 5 year rolling returns, and it starts to look a little bit better. We've got negative, and this is only 5 years, rolling 5 year return. So you jumped in the worst possible time in the market, GFC. 5 years later, even after you've suffered that massive 40% loss, you're above 6%. Right? Now that's point to point. 5 years, worst possible scenario, you're down, let's say 6%. Best possible case scenario, you're up almost 26% or in and around there, 26, 27%. So these ones, Jace, I like to call the good time Charlies. Good time Charlies.
They hang around long enough.
Yeah, they hang around.
Oh, maybe the party will get started sometime soon.
And you're like, oh, no, you know what? I was in there long enough. It just didn't work. It wasn't for me. Investing wasn't for me. 15 years. All of a sudden, the chart has a fairly dramatic change. And what's quite, and so this is annualized returns. Whoops. Jesus, Jason, I don't actually know what I've done here. Have we got the technical difficulties slide?
hit that thing there and pull it down.
There we go. Technical difficulties over.
Boom, 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 boom.
So in the chat, whack it in there. If you invested $100,000 15 years ago and you got an annualized return, let's just say of 5%, how much money would you have today?
I don't know. We're going to wait.
Jeff's
for the
gone
chat.
$10, or is that no? That's earlier on in the chat. That was sorry.
Keep rolling, Fender. Keep rolling.
Well, we know what it is in the room, don't we? What's the amount? Yeah, $100,000. $100,000. So if you took
double, 15 doubles, 5%, 15 double. Yep.
The magic number. But check this little sucker out. All of a sudden, we roll forward for a 20-year time frame, and the worst rolling returns 6%. And sorry, I had this in annualized in a previous chart. So it's annualized returns ends up being in and around that 5 to 6 over that period. The worst possible time sample that you could be in, just short of 5%. And it's not too far off this, about 6%. So basically what I'm getting to here is if you're investing for the long-term game, don't allow the short-term decisions right now to derail you too much. There are some things that you could do and then chat with your advisors about doing those things. But right now is around about that time to start to hold course. And really, especially in, I guess, your game where the decisions are long-term and more far-reaching if you get out of it.
It has to be. The in and out cost of real estate is significant. So, and it's not a good idea to get an in and out in a year. You can dust, 50 grand before you even get out of bed.
So when we look at it, 100% over time, then the stock market's obviously a lot more volatile because it's transactional on a day-to-day basis. You can sell a stock in seconds. You can't sell a house in seconds.
Thankfully.
Otherwise,
it's probably coming though.
Yeah, well, it may be. Red Brick started off with those sorts of ideas. Blockchain may actually bring it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we really need to be aware of is time in the market, not timing the market, as some of the greats say. You've got to be astute about where you go. Don't whack your mate Bitcoin.
Probably going to.
Well, Jason, it is the new goal, isn't it? Yeah, it's the new goal, as they said. But ultimately, what we've got to realise it's the long-term game. And if you start to make short-term decisions based off our number one menace, which is the media and the hype in and around it, yes, be watching what's going on. But we also had a chat with an amazing man today about his business philosophy and investment philosophy, which was really in and around. Oh, I've just blanked out the screen, haven't I?
Keep going, mate. Marty will sort that out. Boom.
And the one thing that he said is when you get into times of hardship or when you get into those periods of time where everyone else is fleeing, and he's not the first one, but I love the way he put it. Buffett says, when those people are around you are fearful, be greedy. When they're greedy, be fearful. And Tim said it today. He's gone, you know what? When everybody else is diving away from the shrapnel that's happening in the markets, well, that's when we get ready to launch a cannonball.
Yeah.
And when everybody's super positive and the taxi driver's telling you to buy more Bitcoin, that's when we're just firing little bullets into the market just to test where it's at.
Yeah.
And I think right about now, the best thing that we can say from a perfect pairing perspective, trust your advisors, trust your strategy. Well, maybe trust your advisors, depending on who they are, I guess. But trust in the longer term strategy, as long as it's not too outrageous. And we use Bitcoin as a bit tongue in cheek. But if you're all invested in something which is highly volatile and maybe not tried and tested, maybe you need to test your strategy.
I'm for 1% of your free cash flow into something that might be a long ranger.
Yep.
But no more than 1%. I mean, you don't know anything about it. Yeah, okay, how's this? Here's a good idea. You know nothing about nothing. Put some money into it. That's what it is.
But it sounded like a great idea.
Oh yeah. This webinar was good, right? Whatever. Right? You know about real estate? Yeah, I've owned it. Like I've had a loan before. Yeah, okay. I can own that one. I know about business. I've been doing it for 30 years. I know the levers and the bits to pull, right? So, when it comes to this stuff, right? So, just remember, you have experience. Back yourself in the experience that you have. So more money in the experience that you've got confidence with, less money in the things that you don't know anything about. right? So in my world, that's like should be a no-brainer, But for testing that out,
but understand the short. I mean, the short term. When we had a look at those short-term returns,
yeah.
When we were talking about CBA, people jumped out of it, said they're never going to see this again. I guarantee you they will.
100%, especially when the government has legislated the success of those 4 institutions, right?
Like 4 pillars policy.
4 pillars policy. It's still there as part of our whole ethos of Australia. So, away we go.
And it's important.
Yeah,
it's one of the reasons that the Australian banking system is one of the more favoured in the world is because it's one of the strongest.
Top 3 in the GFC. We were in the top 3 banking systems of the world. All right. Number 1, Singapore, amazing place. Like they're clever people. Switzerland, Australia. Top safest banking systems in the world, least exposure, smartest structure, whatever it might be. Fundamentally, we want a safe banking system. We can complain about it for sure. Some of the turkeys for sure, and we want more choice for sure. But at the end of the day, we can rely on that fundamental piece, right? The banks are not going to collapse because they're underwritten by the Australian government, right? If that collapses, then we're all stuffed together. So who cares, right? Right? Make sure you buy a few cans of baked beans and whatever, and and a shotgun, and it could be zombie apocalypse. But that's as far from like possibilities as it's going to be. Right?
I did buy a few extra rounds in the middle of COVID.
I bet you did.
Yeah,
I bet you did.
Yeah.
I remember chatting to you in the middle of it, going, I think Fenton's getting a bit affected by the lockdown. He's rocking back and forth with his gun like Fenton, you're going to be okay.
That's all right. I can eat rabbits for the rest of my life.
Yeah. So listen, I might do a quick perfect pairing in my world, when it comes to, of a problem solution. Right now, the cost of a mortgage compared to the average return of the rent is negative, right? Right now, like for most people who buy today, that cost is negative, right? So Marty, if you can go to my screen just for a second. So you might buy a property and, literally 12 months ago, the rent was 5%. And what was the loan? 2%. Like that didn't take Einstein to work out that's not bad. Give or take, 2% of cost your net and 1% it's in your pocket. And that's before tax deductions and other bits and pieces, right? But now it's flipped. It's gone the other way. The income might still be 5%, but some people are paying 6% interest, right? So it's negative, right? Negative cash flow, all right? So, and what's that cost? Let's call it $5,000 a year you got to put in. Let's even call it $10,000 a year, right? At the moment, right?
Sorry, when?
Hey, at the moment. Right.
Got it.
So that's today, right? So that just snuck up on you like, oh, that's a shock. That's a bit rude, whatever, right? Number 1, it's an investment. So what happens when the interest rate goes up, Daniel? What do we get to do?
You get out.
No.
Oh.
More deductions. So not only, so if it's an investment, well, our deductions just increased as investors. So number 1 solution right now, if your interest rates have gone up, go to your accountant and talk to them and say, well, my PAYG variation or my forward deductions, please adjust them in advance so I can adjust my cash flow, right? Number 1, solution immediately. Number 2, here's the drill, right? What is coming at us like a freight train that is going to rocket by the cost of our interest? Rent. And folks, it is not going to stop. It's not going to stop. I'm telling you, you ain't seen none yet. I've never seen this mix of like disaster when it comes to the things in real estate. Like I'm out of my depth here. I'm like, shit, that's rubbish. That's rubbish. That's rubbish. That's rubbish. That's rubbish. The only thing that's holding this damn wall back has what's the thing in Holland where the kid put his finger in the damn wall?
It's the dike.
The dike, right? The kid, which is called interest rates, and it's sitting there like this. Right? That's it. I'm telling you, in the world of Australian real estate. Now, what may happen is some maniacs called politicians might get in there and try and limit the amount we can increase our rent. But that's it. That's all it is.
I'll stick a sock in it.
Right. And the moment by the end of this year, interest rates stop going up and maybe even go down for the first time by the end of this year. That's my call. There'll be an interest rate reduction by the end of this year, maybe even earlier. The speed at which the interest rate, the rent has rocketed by that will be insane, right? And then what's going to happen when that comes out? Everyone's going to be back in the market again, looking for something, doing something with record low supply. Like there's nothing to buy right now. The Chinese government said to 52,000 students in China, listen, unless you get back to Australia, like ASAP, within 4 weeks, your degree that you've been studying online doesn't count in China at all. So rack off. I have no idea why.
15,000 were recorded to hit Melbourne the week after we went.
15,000 in 1 week landed in Melbourne. And people go, oh, why didn't the rent go up from 300 to 600? Because 72 people showed up to that open home. 72 people.
And said, I'll pay in advance.
Yep. Some of these people are paying a year. Here's the other one. We had some students here and the R&W team. You'll meet Owen tomorrow. The parents, the student couldn't find a house to rent. So the parents paid $1.2 million in cash to buy them somewhere to live. They just set a record for a 2-bedroom apartment in one of those buildings, just because they couldn't find anywhere nice to rent. Right? It's only just getting started.
What do you reckon the government's strategy on this is? It's like the demographic of the baby bubble. Are they just for people to die? Because I haven't seen any more land releases in my shire.
Listen, Australia, unfortunately, and I get into a few heated. We need another 10 million people with a taxpayer base. Within 20 years, the number of people paying tax, the ratio of people paying tax, if we just sit around and pick our bums, right, is going to go from 1 to 4, right? Right, 4 people paying tax and 1 person not, from 3 to 2. That's what's happening. Like every mature civilization matures in age, and taxpayers reduce. Japan right now, I don't know if you guys see this, we love Japan it's 20 years ahead of Australia. They just declared a national disaster in Japan. Why did they declare a national disaster in Japan? Anyone know what it is? Well, was it a cyclone? Was it a flood? Anthony?
Birth rates being too low for too long. Population explosion is the wrong end.
Yeah. Extrapolate of a implosion of a birth rate. They said within 15 years we could drop from a first world nation to a third world nation because we won't have any taxpayers. National disaster.
They need Keating over there.
They need Paulie, mate.
I know.
Right?
One for your missus,
Yeah.
one for the country.
Yeah. The baby bonus.
Was that?
I did my 3. Who did their 3? Right? You get the $5,000 bonus, you beauty, right? So, I'm seriously thinking, folks, like they're already in free fall. Their economy's out of control. Young people work forever and a day. They don't want to have a family because they can't afford it. It's a disaster, right? And we need people in the economy to do jobs, to pay taxes for us all, one way, shape or form. So, I'm 100% for some rules around that for sure. But at the end of the day, we don't want to end up like Japan. We have a massive country, the biggest country in the least populated. All right, and per capita infrastructure is ludicrous, all right, as we go. And here's the other thing, I've said this a heap of times. We are the only country in the world that does not have connected to us with a physical landmass a low-cost labour pool. Let that land. We're the only country in the world that does not, and that doesn't, the Kiwis coming over from New Zealand, like, or the Tasmanians going, oh, we can't get a job in Hobart, we'll come to the mainland, whatever. That doesn't count, right? Right? Every other country in the world is connected to another country where the labour costs between 5 and 10 times lower than the citizens in that country would actually work for. Australia doesn't have that. We will never have it. It'll never change. Won't happen, right? And the IMF go, oh, yeah, Australia's house prices over. It's like, yeah, mate.
Oh, yeah, you should put a tax on that.
Yeah.
That was their solution.
Brilliant. Like, you can get a brick laid in, let's say, the US for 2 cents a brick. You know what it costs to lay a brick here in Australia? $25 a brick. They earn more than doctors. I'm not kidding you. What? We're the only country in the world that actually is the case. Fair enough. It's hard work. I wouldn't want to bloody do it. I've laid a few bricks and it's bloody tough.
When a labourer starts going around in a Ferrari, we need to start to rebalance it. It doesn't quite make sense. I'm just wondering though, Jason, I feel like a bad citizen now. I'm wondering, can I borrow one of yours just to even up the odds? Because right now I'm not too keen on going round 2.
Listen,
so
if you take the last one and you pay for all his schooling, I'm out. It's good, right? I'm done. But mate, I think, as we do, we wrap it on. Time flies, but let's bring it to a bit of a closure tonight. Not only do we like to have a bit of fun and have a bit of a joke about this stuff, but honestly, folks, there's still plenty of you online. This stuff's for real, right? And when we talk about money and the future, we need to understand the mechanisms that are sort of at play. Because, you read a quick article in the newspaper and you think, whatever. Well, there's a layer on the layer on the layer. And it's actually not that difficult to comprehend, right? You've got the lowest supply ever in Australia's history. What would be, maybe the 3 ways this thing could go? And you're like, all right, well, I'm not listening to the Fin Review reporter to make some good financial decisions, right? So, whatever that looks like. In that sort of space. So there you go. I think that's it. We're done. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom.
Yeah.
In the can. Live.
That's
we
done.
did it live. Yay! Well, I had fun, as I always do, but I don't know if anyone else did. But hopefully you enjoyed that, folks. And for you guys online, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate you being here. Big shout out to Jeff, Adrian, Tim, Alison. Who else is on there? I chat maybe. Big shout out to all of you guys. Great to have you joining us, as always, on Friday afternoon. A little bit of a debrief, a little bit of a decant the week. Hope you enjoyed it. Our live audience here. If you want to get involved with a fun live audience, give us a shout out. We'll let you know how you can.
Can you imagine it?
Hashtag Deb Jensen. Hashtag Deb, tell me more. Deb, tell me more. There you go.
I can't see that. It was covered by the private chat down there. But I think we just got.
All right, we're done and dusted, mate. Let's call it done and dusted
for another week.
Yeah, well, it's a good night from him.
It's a good night from me.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks for watching another episode of Wealth, Wine and Wisdom.
Make sure you like, subscribe and turn on the notifications so you never miss a thing, folks.
We'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Debrief the week with Wealth, Wine and Wisdom.
Every Friday at 5 p.m. Victoria and New South Wales time. We know that Queensland, South Australia, WA have different time zones, as does Darwin, but we're sure that you can do the calculations depending on whether it's daylight savings or not.
You can also catch up on all the episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you check out the Positive Mentor podcast from our 6-star team at positivementor.com.au.